My name is Marisa Sandoval. I graduated in 2022 with a Bachelor's of Science in Biochemistry. I work at KBI Biopharma in Boulder, and I am a research associate there. We do large scale manufacturing for clinical trials. So we manufacture in bulk our drug product, and then we send that to a third party to fill it into, like the drug product containers. And then those go to phase 1 clinical trials. So for batch testing, we do testing just to make sure that obviously that the product that we're making is safe to go into humans. Basically, I work in the analytical and formulation sciences department within the company, and my group specifically works with testing what we call stability, and we do batch testing as well. So for our stability testing, we pull samples from different storage conditions, and they're stored for a certain period of time, and we do a variety of tests on them. And ultimately, the goal of that testing is to figure out the best storage condition for that drug and its expiry, so how long that drug is active for. I really love knowing that, the drugs that I'm working on have a direct impact on people. And sometimes we have companies come on site, or we have like a virtual meeting with them, and they tell us about their drug, because sometimes unfortunately I actually don't know what the drug I'm working with does. um, all of our clients have code names, so I know who the client is, I know their regular name as well as their code name. But some of these companies are really large and make lots of drugs, and usually their drugs also have code names, so it's really hard to sometimes figure out what you're working with. So I really always love and appreciate when we have our clients come in and tell us about their drug and what it does, because then it gives you more context on what you're working with, why it behaves the way it does and stuff like that. So I would say the big thing is, I know that I'm impacting people, and what I love even more is knowing how I'm impacting them, and like the specific group of people that I'm assisting by testing these drugs. And then on the other hand, in terms of just my job in general, that I really love is, luckily with my company, we're able to be very flexible. So my weeks can vary between having lab time and computer time for documentation and all of those things. So some days I am in the lab all day, some days I am at the computer all day, and then some days it's half and half or split differently between lab and computer work. So I really love not being doing the same thing every single day. I always wanted to go into medical school, like forever and ever. When I realized that I didn't necessarily want to do another 8 years of school essentially after mines, I was like, I kind of want to be done after mines. I know that a lot of people feel that way, and I felt that way. And so that was honestly one of the big things. And then additionally, like just the money. I mean, it was just like that was a big thing for me. So when I decided that, I then thought maybe I want to go into nursing. It's less schooling, which equals, less money. I would still, be in medicine, get a pretty good salary. And once again, that kind of, started thinking about it. And even for me, and when I was done with mines, I was like, I don't even know if I want to do another 2 years of school. So um, then, I was doing some research at Mines, which I really love doing. That was honestly like one of the biggest pieces of experience that I brought from Mines to my interviews for jobs. So I did research, and, that led me into reading more papers, and really realizing that in like the pharma industry, you don't have to be a doctor to directly impact people or patients. There's so many things that go on behind closed doors in, research and development, that I realized that I didn't necessarily have to be patient facing in order to do the things that I wanted to do. So going into my senior year, I mean, I pretty much made the decision to not go to nursing school beginning to middle of junior year. And then I started research around that same time. And then going into my senior year, I knew that I was going to be going into industry and looking at jobs. I applied to a variety of positions, honestly. They were all, of course, within science, but they weren't all necessarily within pharma. I applied to some jobs in pharma. I applied to jobs in cannabis. I applied to jobs even in, I'm sorry, food sciences. So, there was a variety of jobs that I applied for. They weren't all necessarily pharma. I was just kind of putting my eggs, in a bunch of different places and not all in one basket. Um, but the process was really hard. I got a lot of rejections. I mean, I got tons and tons and tons of rejections. Some were immediate, some were later, and then some I just never heard back from. So I actually ended up only interviewing with ultimately three companies. And I applied for more than 3 dozen, probably. So I applied in October. I got my first interview in November. The first interview pretty much just was with the assistant director of the department, and it was about a half-hour interview. And then I had another interview that, when I interviewed with her, she was basically like, I really like you, and, I really want to keep you in mind for our positions, but this is like too early for us to hire. Some companies only will hire you like weeks before your start date, and some companies are willing to hire you with a start date months out. I mean, it just depends on the company. And that was something that I really had a hard time navigating on, like, is this company looking to hire, now or later? So she was like, let's keep in touch, reach back out to me in March, and we'll schedule your second interview. So I reached back out again in March, got the second interview. That interview panel was insane. This was a 3.5 hour interview with 30-minute intervals, and you were in an interview from anywhere to 2 to 4 people in the room. So it was just back to back. I met like 20 people in this interview. And then I got invited for my last interview with HR, and that was in May. It was an extremely long process. So I reached back out, like I said, in March, had that second panel interview that was 3.5 hours. And then I had my HR interview, which is about an hour, I would say, in May. I didn't get a job offer until 6 weeks after my HR interview. So it was honestly like one of the worst waits ever. It was really tough. Like, it was tough just like honestly just getting through the interview process in and of itself, and then waiting 6 weeks to get a job offer. So it was not pretty. But I made it. At the end of the day, that I knew that I graduated with a degree from Colorado School of Mines, and I would eventually find a job. If it wasn't going to be pretty and say I didn't get the job with KBI, I knew that one day I would get the job, even if it was months later, even if I continued my job, my retail job that I had in college for a couple of months after graduation. I was honestly bracing for that myself at that point. Like, I, kind of, hope for the best, expect the worst kind of situation. So, I I it was hard. It was just kind of more of just like thinking big picture and just knowing that ultimately, like I said, like, you are going to graduate. Are going to get a degree from Colorado School of Mines that no one can ever take away from you, and some company somewhere will want that. I would still very much give, I mean, I can't even say give the advice, but like, embrace the fact that I kept myself, in this headspace that, like I said before, I'm going to get this degree from the Colorado School of Mines. No one will ever be able to take that away from me. I'm always going to have that. Someone's going to want it. You just kind of have to have that attitude that somewhere someone will want you, and I mean, it'll all fall into place, even if it's not pretty. So, number one thing I would say, this is not an ad, not sponsored by the Career Center, but go to the Career Center. They're a wonderful resource. I leaned on them quite heavily just because, like I said, my major didn't have that foundation with those connections to companies with the school. Like we just didn't have that. And so I had to do a lot more independent research, but using all the opportunities that I could that the school provided me through the career center, whether it was the rapid resume reviews or mock interviews or, just simply working one on one with someone, that was really how I got the process started. And I give a lot of credit to that, and being, helping me be successful in my job search ultimately. I would say definitely use your resources, because your resources, when you have an outside perspective, you people see things that you've done or accomplished or experienced that you forget about. And or they're like, this should be expanded on, so getting, someone else to kind of look at your stuff, whether that's, a friend, a working professional in the industry, or the career center, is definitely, that would be my biggest advice. When they sent the email, whenever they hire someone new within our department, they always send an email out introducing the person and kind of giving a background of what they've done and all of that. And when they wrote my email, it was Marisa Sandoval went to the Colorado School of Mines. There is not a single other university that they send these emails out with, and it is going to be like this person went to the university, or like, it's never it's this person went to University of Colorado. This person went to this. I went to the Colorado School of Mines on this email. So it does mean something. Even to people who are out of state, people know what mines is.